Scented bounce won like 90-10 among regular bounce users. But unscented bounce won 90-10 versus unscented product users. And so they wouldn't allow me to put the unscented bounce among
Scented.
unscented product users in my summary.
Oh,
But I could write it in my biweekly.
right.
And so Mr. Lako saw it in my biweekly, and he told me, he wrote a note or called me, I don't remember which, said, I want you to come down here, bring your products and your data, and I wanted to discuss it.
Wow.
8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I told my boss, we went down, we discussed the results. The brand was there. He told him, he said, look, I want this product in the market.
Increased
No,
market
that's
share. You
yeah,
just
I
gave
want
the
that.
stats on the,
Right.
on the
Yeah,
research.
I want this product in the market 6 months from now.
Wow.
So anybody
And so
right
say-
now using an unscented bounce or unscented product that Procter & Gamble is laying out, no matter where they went, as far as African Americans, they can say that an African American
That's significant.
created that.
That's
Right.
exactly right.
And
Wow.
these are the
Now, the
kinds
thing-
of things that a lot of times our people
don't
don't
know.
know. They
That's
just have,
right.
they just don't have that information.
That's
Well,
right.
the thing is, in corporations, now when we had a magazine called Moonbeam, and when Moonbeams wrote the story, they came out and said, oh, we went out and we did some research among consumers, and they told us they wanted an unscented product,
Oh,
and
you-
we did this, and we did this, and we did that. So they made it sound like tick, tick, tick.
Right.
Where it was a big battle inside.
A fight,
Of really,
yeah.
how it was written and presented was not how it actually happened.
Right.
That you had nothing
Yeah.
to do with it. You were
No.
not. You
Yeah,
were not
name
a
not
part of it.
mentioned, yeah.
What about Crush, Dad, and Safeguard?
Okay, Crush, I had responsibility for the bars, and we developed, a Safeguard soap or any deodorant bar, whether you know it or not, is a drug. Safeguard or any deodorant bar is a drug.
I didn't know that.
Didn't know that.
Well, it is because it alters the microflora on the body. Anything that
Okay.
alters the microflora on the body is considered a drug.
Okay,
And
okay.
so you have to have a new drug application for a new,
Right, right.
a new
That's
deodorant
right.
bar. But at any rate, I had responsibility for that. And when I looked at the color lineup, I'll make this one short, we were selling Safeguard, and it was beige, pink,
I remember
and
that
white.
beige, yeah.
Beige, pink, and white. And Dow, which is a long story, can't go into here, but Dow was gold.
Right.
And gold had become the signal for deodorancy in the soap. And so what we did was to develop a gold Safeguard bar with a grape fragrance, and we tested that versus Dow, and we won. For the first time in a market research test, we beat Dow. We went to the market, expanded it, and we beat Dow in the marketplace. That had been sitting there waiting to be done for a long time, but people hadn't connected the fact that gold, these are simple things, gold
Yeah.
represented deodorancy in the marketplace, and white, beige, and pink did not. Those represented more or less beauty bombs,
Beauty, yeah.
but
Right.
not, not that kind of thing. So,
Now, what about Crush? Did you say Crush?
Yeah, because Procter
Yeah.
& Gamble
Yeah,
bought,
we
bought
touched on
Crush.
that earlier, that's right, yeah.
we bought Crush, and we had, I was given responsibility for Crush. And one of the things I did for Crush was to develop two things. One is we wanted to put juice in Crush. So I had to go out to California, identify a source of grapes, help the grape grower change his process so that the grapes, after process, we chose white Thompson seedless grapes, and we changed his filtering process so that the grape juice would be clear and didn't have any odor, but retain the potassium, which was the important thing for the FTC to make sure it contained the potassium. And then we developed an aseptic way of packaging the grape juice, which was kind of we built a plant for him so that he could flash. You heat this stuff up in a round tube reactor, flash it, and condense it with liquid nitrogen real fast, so that it was aseptically packaged.
Okay.
And we needed to do that so that when we shipped this juice in the plants, they couldn't say that we were contaminating their plants.
Right.
But this is the way that I developed a process for a raw material which was put into crush at a 10% level, and it didn't change the flavor of the drink, but added to it allowed us to compete in the juice market because
Wow.
everybody was putting juice in the soft drinks.
And is that how
And it-
grape, like the different flavors?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
'cause
grape-
they did come out with different.
Yeah, different flavors
right.
beyond
Yeah,
orange.
Right.
Yeah, but this juice you could put in any. It had no odor, no flavor. It had the nutritional value of grape juice. It didn't change anything, so we could add it in any flavor without any consequences. And the last thing is, I developed a formula for crush, which allowed us to change our label to be consistent with the American Diabetic Association label, so that we had the right ingredient statement. So I changed the formulation around
Right.
so that it was consistent, so that diabetics could use the product. And that was based on it being aspartame sugar, and that was coming out. And so we just kind of redid the formula to
Man.
allow that to be used.
I want to, before this show runs out, I have to share this with the viewers. I'm sitting here with two statements from the United States Patent Office. One says, now I'm going to read this, not that I understand it. It says, combined anti-calculus and anti-plaque compositions, Herbert Smitherman, Cincinnati, Ohio, inventor. The other one says, and this was in 1990, June of 1990. This one says, process for the preparation of sulfonated detergent composition, Herbert C. Smitherman, Cincinnati, Ohio, inventor. Now, this is real important, brothers and sisters in Cincinnati, that we have a man right here who has done tremendous things. You've heard this. And by the way, we're at his home. We're doing this interview at his home. And we have two patents here. There are many, many other things that I could share with you, newspaper headlines, clippings, things like that, that have been written up about Dr. Smitherman. Here's a plaque in recognition of his devoted service as a founding principal of Western Hills Design Technology High School back in 2002. He's done many, many things. And when he retired, he didn't stop. He didn't go and sit down and say, well, that's it, I'm not going to do anything else. He became a principal of a high school. So, that's why I said at the opening it's real important, and this is very special, that we're having this interview here at Herb Smitherman's home with his son, Christopher, and just being able to share this information with you. This is something that we can use throughout not only the month of February, but throughout the year and the rest of our lives to share with our children, to let them know that we do have a lot of history right here in the city of Cincinnati. Christopher?
Yeah, one of the things that amazes me about my dad, of his sacrifice, because his advocacy for African Americans while
Yes.
being a senior PhD and the first PhD in the culture of Procter and Gamble cost him financial resources and cost him promotions.
Yeah.
It's not like Procter and Gamble was wide open receiving the information and
Right.
how he was attempting to organize and bring African American PhDs there. I don't think it's perception. The reality of it is there were others that were promoted up
Right.
the ranks
Right.
beyond Dr. Herbert Smitherman because of his advocacy and his work for our people. And there's some people that take the short path.
Right.
There's some people that within the institution
Yes,
who are
we are.
African American take the short path, where my father decided to take the hard path.
Yeah.
And so some people will look at me and say, well, Smitherman, why do you do what you do?
That's right. That's right. Now they know.
Where you get that
That's
stuff
right.
from.
That's right.
You know
That's what I said to Albert one day. I was talking to
The apple
him.
doesn't fall
That's right.
far from the tree.
That's right.
And
Yeah,
this
yeah.
isn't new for him.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of work for Procter and Gamble, and it's also interesting to me. I know we're short on time. Is all the CEOs that he served under?
I wanted to ask about that.
Because my father served. He had almost a 30-year career at
Right.
Procter and Gamble, and served under many CEOs where he attempted to push them to do the right thing as an institution.
Right.
And some African American Procter and Gamble employees right now are benefiting
Yes.
from the groundwork
Yes.
that the first person
Right.
laid for them, but don't even know that Dr. Smitherman even exists.
Right.
So, Dad, who are some of the CEOs that you served under at Procter and Gamble? And I know we're close to our time.
Well, the first person that was CEO of Procter & Gamble was Ed Harness, and then of course Smale, and
Yeah, I remember Smale.
and John Pepper. But the interesting thing about the dynamics of this is kind of interesting because Ed Harness, when I came to the company, had told people to go out and hire some African Americans. And people who were in the positions in the middle ranks would go out and say, we can't find any. And they come back and that report would always be, we can't find any. So finally he wrote a note, he said, go out and find some African Americans, qualified or qualifiable. Well, then now they had to find somebody. So after that, people who were hired were always qualifiable. Nobody was qualified.
Yeah. Wow.
But at least there were some people who started to come in.
Open the door.
Open the door. But
Yeah.
he had to use those two words. So oftentimes the guy at the top who's trying to get things done is trying to get things done in spite of what's going on at the lower level. Having said that, I have never known a manager within Procter & Gamble or any other industry who have been rewarded for mentoring and promoting a black candidate. Most of the time, at least all of the people that I knew in Procter & Gamble, when they did something fantastic, what I thought was fantastic for diversity and for women or for blacks or whatever, they weren't really promoted. I mean, they were pushed off to the side. So that's not the way you encourage more
right.
people to
Step
do
up.
that. And so
That's right.
corporations today don't operate in a way that they encourage their managers to develop, African Americans, minorities, and women in the company.
Now, Dad, you talked about PhDs. What about janitors? When you started, did Procter & Gamble have African Americans serving in other capacities?
Well, not many. There were a few janitors at Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble janitors.
That was about it, huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
Procter & Gamble. There were
In 1966.
there were probably let's see, I can remember Milt Coleman and Logan Stone. I can remember a couple of technicians out at Miami Valley, a couple of secretaries within the company, this whole company, and or maybe a few custodians, here and there.
Yeah.
And they were recent hires. They weren't
Wow.
people who
They'd
had been there
a
for a long time. So it was one of those things where if African Americans had been hired at Procter & Gamble as custodian many years ago, you would have a lot more wealth in the black community as a
Yes.
result of that.
Yes.
I remember, you remember Alonzo Torbert, and who married my adopted sister, and Alonzo Torbert was working in Birmingham, Alabama for $18 a week, $3 a day for 6 days a week with no benefits. I brought him up here and got him a job with Procter & Gamble. It's a very nice young man, very hardworking, et cetera.
Yeah.
When he got up here, he worked and worked and worked. And